What's that?
Our new Space Coast Credit Union watchdog.
Watchdog.
The financial products and services you want, plus the protection you need. Space Coast Credit Union. Your life, your financial watchdog.
We are headed into week 4 of the NFL season, and your Miami Dolphins, actually, we're headed into week 5, right? We're headed into week 5. Your Dolphins are 1-3. That's a hell of an introduction, isn't it? I'm like the Dolphins. I've got penalty flags all over the place already. This is crazy. Hey, welcome to this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. I am your host, Chris Perkins, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist. That is David Furones, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins writer. Say hello to the folks, Furones.
Hey, what's up?
There we go. I like that. Short and sweet, baby. Short and sweet. Hey, I
was just gonna say, Perk. In honor of the Dolphins' performance last night, I'm just coming in woefully unprepared for the show. All right. Usually it's on a Tuesday morning after a Sunday game. We've got a whole extra day. I mean, I got home late last night after the game. Woke up tired. I'm sending it in. We're doing it on the fly here.
I like it, baby. It's a short week. Let's make it work, Furones.
Haven't brought myself to it, but yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this thing.
We're relying on natural talent today, baby. I like it. Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. Hey, as always, we'd like to thank our viewers for joining us today. We invite you to leave comments, questions, and thoughts on our live chat, which is the place to get your most intelligent Dolphins talk. We also invite you to vote in our weekly Dolphins poll question, which you can find on sunsentinel.com. This week's question: why don't the Dolphins have a better backup quarterback? And I will give you the options for that later on in the show. We would also like to invite you to sign up for Finn's Flash, our weekly newsletter. You can find that by using the QR code on your screen, or you can go to our website, sunsentinel.com, click on the All Sections tab in the upper left, then click on the Sign Up for Newsletters tab, click on Finn's Flash. You'll be all hooked up for all of the Dolphins news for the week. And finally, if you miss any part of this show, you can catch the podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. All of that is out of the way. The Dolphins 1-3 after last night's lackluster 31-12 loss against Tennessee. We're going to talk about what we saw, what we hope to see in the next week or so. This season could go in any direction. As we like to say, there's an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. All right, Furones, so I'm going to give it to you right off the top because I'm stumbling, bumbling, and fumbling here. What did you like? What didn't you like from that Titans game last night?
What did I like? There's something to like? There's something to like.
I saw Liam Eichenberg was the highest rated offensive player. You got to like that.
Yeah, according to Pro Football Focus, which I always feel they have it out for him, and then like almost they make it a point to grade him lower than really he should have been. But I don't know. Maybe now they're trying to say something else here. But there is just so much to dislike, even with a change at quarterback. And Snoop Huntley has only been here 2 weeks, and obviously it just all looked like there was a lack of preparation. Mike McDaniel says it's preparation that he's seeing in practice, not translating into execution on the field on game day. But you really have to question it. And I mean, it comes down to this for me is as you are changing quarterbacks, simplify the offense. for these quarterbacks. It's just it's not you can't expect every backup quarterback to go run it like Tua. So you have a different style of quarterback in Tyler Snoop Huntley. Take advantage of his athleticism. They got him to run a little bit, but I mean, it seems so. And also the receivers, they didn't help him much. Tyreek Hill dropped a pass that was a backward pass. So it was a turnover. Jalen Waddle, Huntley hit him right in stride, and he dropped the pass. But of course, Huntley had to miss to Hill when he had him deep. So he needed to throw that ball with more air under it, get it out in front of Tyreek. But offensive line, the play calling, the overall execution on offense. I mean, I do like the way this defense is playing. They are actually number one in third down, getting off the field on third down in the league. So Anthony Weaver's unit has actually been, quite well.
Yeah.
But still, Dolphins were getting dominated in time of possession in this game. It evened out a little bit later on, but through much of the early going, Titans were just way ahead in that category. So that doesn't bode well whenever you're playing with a backup quarterback that's trying to get into a rhythm. So just a lot not to like about Monday night's game.
Yeah, text line is popping already. Nandito 357, AV, Pretty Boy, Dave Harbor, what's up? Ender Fireplays, YT, Scott Pro, Poseidon, Carl Becker, B Stuck the Poet, David Laser, Chris, Comrade, Fleming Law, Fitzgerald Glass. What's up, everybody? We're getting to y'all quickly. Because y'all are on fire here. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I didn't like. The backup quarterback plan, I just don't know how the Dolphins got in this position. We've been through this before with the Skylar Thompson wins the competition against Mike White, but apparently neither of them were adequate. Why were they here the entire offseason? Why did you have this training camp competition when it appears that neither of them were adequate? And perhaps you even knew that. We're going to get into that later on today. The penalties and the sloppy play, 10 for 85 yards? Tyreek not going after that loose ball. What in the hell is going on, Tyreek? Like the ball's rolling around and you're walking after it. The play calling, as you said, and the Dolphins not protecting home field. If I'm not mistaken, they're now 3-3 in their last 6 home games. So, that's the one thing that they could hang their hat on was beating inferior opponents at home. I think in their last 10 games, Furones, if I'm not mistaken, they're 3-7 with 2 home losses to Tennessee. It's craziness. Here we go. AV says, big ask for McDaniel to change the offense now. Less motion and timing only solution. Why do we even carry tight ends in the offense? Oh, AV, you hit it on me right there. Start Skylar the next 2 games. Less need to overhaul the offense with him. Let me say this. I don't know where Jonnu Smith has been. Julian Hill commits all these penalties last week, and he's back out on the field as if nothing happened. I mean, is there any reprisal for committing continuous penalties on this team? But, yeah, the tight ends, I thought with backup quarterbacks playing, the tight end might become the quarterback's best friend, right? Because the defenses are playing the 2 deep safeties to prevent the deep throws to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Why not hit some tight ends? I don't care if it's Durham Smythe, Julian Hill, Tanner Connor. It doesn't have to be Jonnu. Utilize those tight ends. I don't, starting Skylar, you're right. You don't have to change as much of the offense with him, but I think Skylar deserves one more start. I don't think it should be next week, both for health reasons. I don't think his ribs will be healed. And I don't like the one and done thing. I would give Snoop another start. I would probably give Tim Boyle a look before I gave Skylar another start. But
you're gonna play everybody. You're gonna play everybody.
I think Skylar deserves another look, but I would give Snoop another look. But what do you think about changing the offense for Snoop? What do you think about any of that stuff, changing the offense overall, Furones?
Yeah, changing the offense. That's the biggest thing that this comes down to, is simplifying things for a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
You have Snoop Huntley. Let him play a little bit of backyard ball. It's a brand new playbook for him to try to figure out. So complicated with the motions. And when Skylar's in the game, both Week 3 in Seattle, and then also his previous start, which was the playoff loss in Buffalo to wrap up the 2022 season. There's been communication mishaps and getting the play calls in. So why not just simplify things for the backup quarterback? Now Skylar has been here 3 years, so
Right.
you would think, okay, he can run the offense as complex as it is. But you go to a backup quarterback that just got here 2 weeks ago, then just simplify things for him. And
Yes.
you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. Just let them go to work. Let that speed flourish with also having speed at quarterback and Tyler Huntley. So that's one thing that I feel like the Dolphins will regret from Monday night is just you have the talent, just go let the talent go to work instead of trying to run your same offense that's based so much on timing for a guy who just got here the other day.
Yeah, McDaniel doesn't do simple very well, does he? Yeah. Yeah. Scott Pro says Greer and McDaniel need to go. Carl Beckert, it's time to clean house ASAP. Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel got to go. Be Stuck the Poet. It's midnight in Miami, Dolphins fans. We've been here before. We knew what was up when we heard Run It Back. David Lazar, this is just so disappointing, but there is still most of the season left. If they can just fix the O-line, we can fix this situation. Are you on more of the David Lazar, it's okay type of thing, or Carl Beckert and Scott Pro take the broom to this organization, Furones?
Oh, well, those are two very opposite.
Two choices. That's it. Two choices.
One or the other. I can't fall anywhere in the middle of the spectrum.
None.
Well, I wrote about it to start the week that the Dolphins were already in must-win territory.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of had them splitting between the Buffalo and at Seattle game originally. Obviously, then Tua goes down in that Buffalo loss, and now you're looking at going into Seattle and Lumen Field and the 12th man environment, and that being a difficult ask for a backup quarterback. But then you have to win. I don't care who's at quarterback with this roster, which is trying to compete for a playoff run and maybe a Super Bowl title, which right now it just seems like so far gone with where they stand right now. But just when you come in with those expectations, and you have Stephen Ross on the team broadcast of the preseason opener saying he expects Super Bowl contention, and then you're losing at home to the Tennessee Titans, who were previously winless, and now you're 1-3. I don't care if you have to bridge some games together with a backup quarterback. Other teams in the league are winning with a backup quarterback, and the Dolphins have much more talent across the board on this roster than a lot of those teams that are still getting it done. So there is no excuse. You shouldn't be losing at home to a team like Tennessee when you need to bridge some wins together against this soft part of the schedule. This is why I wrote it at the beginning of the week, is that they really can't afford, no matter the circumstances, to lose too many games in this stretch, because we know their record at full strength against stronger opponents and winning teams and playoff teams, and those are the ones you're going to face in the second half of the schedule. Right now is when you get the Titans and the Patriots and the Colts,
right?
And the Cardinals after that. So, the Dolphins need to string some wins together, regardless of who's out there, regardless of who's starting at quarterback or who's on PUP and IR and yet to come back. There's still way too much talent on this roster not to be winning these games.
Furones, I'm going to read you some of these texts, and really I want to focus more on the emotion of these texts. And I want to know, do you think it resonates with the players, with Steve Ross, with Mike McDaniel? Fleming Law says, fire everyone. Might as well tank at this point, get a real quarterback that can stay on the field. Fitzgerald Glass says, this team will never win anything with Stephen Ross as owner, mistake after mistake. Scott Pro, the team has no discipline. McDaniel is more worried about being the player's friend than actually coaching them. Comrade says Tyreek looked as though he was out for a stroll in the countryside. Unacceptable reaction. I was more awake watching from Scotland, and it was the middle of the night. And Comrade further says, does McDaniel know that tight end is a position in the NFL? And Fleming Law further says McDaniel's that really nice teacher that all the kids took advantage of back in elementary school. Strong emotions, Furones. Do you think that anybody in the organization hears this? Players, coaches, McDaniel, Steve Ross, and what do you think is or should be their reaction to such strong emotion?
Yeah, well, I think they hear it based on seeing the product on the field and these losses. And yeah, I think what they're hearing from fans, they already know. They've got to know.
Yeah.
And they hear it in the boos whenever it's another 3 and out, and the offense is coming right back off the field,
Yep.
and the fans are hitting the exits with 14 minutes remaining in a game at home against a winless team on Monday Night Football. I would say the nation is watching, but I would hope much of the rest of the nation with another game on was tuning into the Lions and Seahawks instead of that dismal performance between the Dolphins and the Titans. So they're saying they were watching that game instead of 2 backup quarterbacks and Mason Rudolph and Tyler Huntley. I actually wish I was watching that one. To be honest with you, but I mean, these are things that have been in the back of their minds because a lot of what they're doing is a bit of an experiment, and it's kind of hitting them in the head right now, in the face, just with this start. So, but they are committed to this. They extended just about everyone. They extended Mike McDaniel before this season. Tua got his extension. Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey,
right.
Bradley Chubb is signed long term, and Tyreek Hill got guaranteed money for the duration of his contract. So the Dolphins made their bet. They feel like this is a core that they're committed to, and right now they kind of just got to get through these games and hope that it turns around when everyone gets back, and maybe string together another win or two while you don't have Tua. But it's looking bleak at the moment, and this season could be slipping away.
Yeah, it is looking bleak. You know what? I mentioned positive stuff, and we'll get back to the positive stuff later because we're going to go to segment 2. Storm Duck could have been a positive, right?
Hey, yeah. My favorite name on this roster. So.
That's right.
But, I mean, you definitely can't fault the Dolphins' pass defense too much in this one.
Yeah.
You definitely did last time they faced the Titans, and they gave up the 2-touchdown lead late with those breakdowns in coverage, Vic Fangio calling the soft coverage. But, hey, the Dolphins, they were getting off the field on third down. Hey, no quarterback threw for more than 100 yards in this game. So that includes Mason Rudolph of the Titans, who did have 17 pass attempts after Will Levis exited the game early with that shoulder injury. So, yeah, I mean, you can't fault this defense. Even if 31 points were scored,
right.
Run defense you can.
Yes.
Yeah, they did hold them to a 3.6 average yards per carry, but still too many big plays in the run game and time of possession lost early. So, and they were getting off the field on third down. We've mentioned that they're actually number 1 so far in that category between last week and this week. How they were holding their opponents on third down, but yeah, I mean, I actually liked what we saw out of Storm Duck. So definitely, secondary is not something that is not a unit that you are faulting for Monday night.
Yeah, and Patrick Paula might have been a plus also. We'll get to him later. Also, we didn't call his name good or bad, so I think that's a pretty good sign. Real quick, let's migrate over to segment 2, Furones, and this is quarterback related, and it's how much does team and quarterback performance have to do with Tua's return date? Meaning, if the Dolphins are 500, if they're above 500 by some miracle, can you let Tua sit one more game? If the backup quarterback is playing well, could you let Tua sit one more game? Here's our poll question, Furones. Why don't the Dolphins have a better backup quarterback? Here are your 5 options. Number 1, is it because of Tua's feelings that Mike McDaniel is afraid to bring in somebody that would threaten Tua? Number 2, is it because of finances? The Dolphins simply can't afford a quality backup quarterback because they're paying everybody else. Number 3, is it Skylar Thompson? He just let them down. Number 4, poor planning by Greer and McDaniel. Or number 5, all of the above. That was your selection. It's the all of the above. So again, it's why don't the Dolphins have a better plan at backup quarterback? Furones, how do you manage? What is the number one? Let's assume that Tua gets medical clearance. What's the number 1 factor or the top 2 factors in how quickly Tua returns?
Well, yeah, number 1 factor would be his clearance from the doctors and making sure everything's okay on his end and the doctors. So One would be the opinions of those which are the most opinions in this case. And number two is just the fact that it's now or never time already in the season.
Yeah.
So, yes, he's cleared. You bring him back, which also goes back to the IR designation to begin with, is that you already had 4 weeks if you let him go through the bye week, but 3 games if you didn't place him on IR. So you could have brought him back, say, all right, forget about at New England. You still bridge that one with your backup quarterback situation. Then you get the bye week. That gives him a whole nother week to come back. You could have had him for this Indianapolis Colts game, and then you never know if, let's say with a backup quarterback situation, they lose that one instead of win it. Let's say just for the sake of argument, they win at New England, but then they lose at Indianapolis with the backup quarterback coming off the bye. Then let's say Tua starts to get the team back going on the right track with his return, and they get some wins, and then they end up 1 game out of the playoffs by the end of the year, and you're thinking back to, well, we wanted to put Tua on IR to maximize how much time he has. But we could have had him right after the bye with 1 more game in the mix there. Then that would just kind of be crushing because you played it overly cautious to begin with. And I understand, given Tua's history with concussions, that placing him on IR sort of eliminated the timeline. And I kind of feel like it was more so to keep us from asking every time, is Tua, is it Tua can come back, where concussion protocol, and it's just kind of like you already said, okay, he's out for 4 games, 5 weeks, but you could have had him back sooner if he's advancing as quickly as it seems like he is, because the very next night he was at Disney on Ice with players that Friday night after the Buffalo game, traveling to Seattle the next weekend, attentive and talkative and smiling with teammates, and I know that's not every indication of where you're progressing in concussion protocol, but very early Mike indicated that he was sweating, which although he doesn't like to get into stages of concussion protocol, I feel like he was indicating he's in one of those stages where you can begin some form of physical activity, cardio activity, which is step 2, and that was very early on in the protocol when he said it. So we don't know where he is right now in the protocol, but I feel like the way this is turning out, the Dolphins are missing out on a game where they could have brought him back, and it could end up being a very vital game in the grand scheme of things.
When we were talking about the season could be slipping away, Pretty Boy says could be slipping away. I think it done slipped and fell. So there's that. Look, let's see here. Here's a good one
needs
from
life
Legend.
alert right now. This season needs life alert. It slipped and fell. I've fallen and I can't get up.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
That's the Dolphins season.
I love it. Tweet it, baby. Tweet it. Tweet it.
That comment made me think of that.
I like that. Here's a good one. Stevie C, we see you out there. Thanks for joining the show. Here's one from Legend. I like this one. It says, why does everyone say we need some wins and hold it down until Tua gets back? Tua is 1-4 in his last 5, 7 touchdowns, 9 turnovers. He says 8 interceptions and a fumble. We're not a good team from top to bottom. When you're talking about bringing Tua back, what are you bringing them back to, Furones? And I know you're a big, he shouldn't have gone on IR, or maybe shouldn't have gone on IR. What are you bringing them back to, and what are you trying to do this year? Do you still think there's a chance that the Dolphins can advance in the playoffs? Are you just trying to make the playoffs? Are you with that thing, that school of thought that says, well, if you're kind of slipping, just let it go and try to get the highest draft pick? I'm never a tank guy. I didn't like the tank for Tua plan. I say you always try to win. So tanking is out of the question to me. I think you're still trying to win a playoff game this year because there's a lot at stake. The 30-somethings, most of them, this is it for them, right? I don't think Mostert will be back. Poyer, Kendall Lamb, Teron Armstead, a lot of these guys, that's a lot of talent. So you need to push while you have them. But really, the other thing is you do still have a lot of talent. No excuses. I know Tua's not here, but Tua does need to come back. Tua needs to come back as soon as possible, and you need to try to win and try to win playoff games. That's kind of my stance on this. But like Legend said, you weren't doing that well the last few games of last season when Tua was playing, the first few games of this season. What do you think Tua is coming back to, Furones? Is he coming back to that high-scoring team, or is he coming back to a team where opponents have figured out the offense and now you need to find something else?
Yeah, he's coming back to a team that should have what you expected this offense to look like when you added your Jonnu Smith and your Odell Beckham Jr. To this roster. Now, you haven't had Odell to be that third wide receiver when opponents put so much emphasis on stopping Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Jonnu Smith, you haven't incorporated him into the offense, which is the bigger thing, and you mentioned it in segment one, that get the tight end involved. So I feel like the backup quarterbacks or young quarterbacks, the tight end is such a great asset for them, because he's a closer target in the middle of the field. You see him easier, and especially on a team where opponents know they have to stop Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Boy, if you just had Jonnu Smith's presence, he can do so much for you. So it really puzzles me, perplexes me that they can't get him involved better ways. But we're expecting that Odell Beckham Jr. could get back into the fold here early on as his availability off PUP as he becomes eligible. So that's what I'm expecting Tua comes back to. And you are committed to competing right now with this roster the way it is. It's not a matter of you started 1-3 with 3 different quarterbacks starting 4 games, and now you just tank. You have to go for it. You set this team up to go for it now.
Right.
You didn't set it up for contingency plans. Like, you're committed to this roster. You have too many salary cap commitments for years to come to this core to break it up now. So you have to go for it, and then if it fails, it fails, and then that's when you begin another rebuild. You're going to rebuild regardless on the back end of this, but. It also goes back to this offseason. They had a net loss of talent, too.
Yep.
Now, the roster at the end of the year with injuries, wasn't all that, but losing Christian Wilkins, losing Robert Hunt, losing Andrew Van Ginkel, who's balling for Minnesota. These things hurt. So it's coming back to hit them now.
Yeah, just the passion on here. David Lazar and a couple other people have asked about Isaiah Wynn, and I think you alluded to him that they're hoping to get him back, but who knows? Who knows if Isaiah Wynn?
Another one.
Yeah. Yep.
We got to get all those updates.
Yep.
Maybe.
Luis M. says the team looked bad before Tua got injured. This year was a failure on Greer and McDaniel. Richard Keys says this team has tanked its way through with or without Tua. Lenny Pena, the front office, has done this franchise a disservice by not addressing the interior of the offensive line, and they laughed at us for worrying about it. AZ Fanatic, I think things might be different if we had a competent offensive line. Travalis Tinker from the Bahamas. What's up? Tua will come back and win MVP this season. Shouts out from the Bahamas. Rob might have had a preview to my column that's going to run today. He says, we are 1-6 in our last 7 games. Stop Tyreek Hill and you stop the Dolphins. That's a big part of my column. That's my mantra. He further says the failure to improve the O-line in the offseason has really hurt us. Constant penalties indicate coaching issues. Ian Shear says Tua still can't win games, and we are light years away. McDaniel needs to go. Kind of my point here, Furones. Fans are all over the place. And do you think this is systemic failure for the Dolphins? I mean, is it Tua and a failure on his part? Is it the offensive line? Luis M. is saying he doesn't trust Greer to draft the next quarterback. Who do you have faith in this organization? Greer, McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek. Like, what do you, is it systemic failure, or is this just a rough patch and things will be better soon?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. And I mean, we've seen this team have success. We've seen the 8-3 start and the 9-3 start. So,
Right.
so yeah, there is something there that you could go back to. They were number one in offense last year, number two in scoring. I mean, now they're last in the league in scoring offense. So systemic versus there's clearly something there you can go back to, which to me gives you at least some semblance of hope. But if you still don't see it when you have everything there, and that's the other part, is just it's built around a lot of players who are injury prone,
Right.
availability for your guys. So, I mean, it's an excuse every year is the injuries. Well, you didn't have Tua in the playoff game against Buffalo, so that's why you lost. It's okay. You know, we go into next year, and then, 9-3, and they collapse at the end of the year. Well, but then you had Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle hurt, and half the defense was out. So it's okay. It's because of injuries. It's because of injuries. Well, if you have it because of injuries every year, then there is a systemic problem there with what's going on with your organization. If that's just your excuse every time.
Yep, I agree that it's you've got to change your philosophy and your strategy at some point, because if all of this stuff keeps leading to either A, undesirable results, or B, the same dead end, which is injuries, you've got to make a change somewhere. You can't keep doing the same thing. I got Game New Jersey, what's up, who writes, this may be the worst structured roster a GM has ever put together. John Gordon says we are a fringe playoff team at best. If not, Weaver has interim coach written all over him. Wow, that's something strong. Firing Mike McDaniel and inserting Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator. AZ Fanatic says McDaniel needs to simplify the offense. Furones, before we get to the Furones bonus, here's one here that says from Ian Shearer, this was a house of cards that didn't even yield a wild card win. Greer and McDaniel need to be held accountable before they hold players accountable. No more Camp McDaniel, Chip Kelly all over again. When it comes to holding people accountable, Furones, I've heard the cries of get rid of Mike McDaniel. But what are you going to do next? There's a suggestion for Anthony Weaver. I guess Darrell Bevel could be an interim head coach. Offensive coordinator Frank Smith, running backs coach Eric Studesville was an interim head coach in Denver. But what's the big plan? Now, I will say that this franchise has had two successful coaches on staff that it let go, right? And Zach Taylor, who's now in Cincinnati, and Dan Campbell, who is now in Detroit. But I just don't think getting rid of Mike McDaniel at this point is the answer. At this point, I'm willing to let this thing play out through the rest of the regular season. But boy, if you get rid of McDaniel or you get rid of Greer, Tua is still here. You either have to take a broom to the whole thing, which is going to be tough because McDaniel and Tua, McDaniel, you can buy him out or just write him a check. But Tua is still here. And does a new coach and a new GM want Tua? So what do you do about that? I would stick with McDaniel if I had concessions. And I said this at the end of last season that I thought somebody should pull Mike McDaniel aside and say, look, you're going to have a power back this year, whether you like it or not, that you haven't won a playoff game doing it your way. Now you're going to make some concessions. Do you demand that of McDaniel? Do you get rid of McDaniel? And if you do get rid of McDaniel, what are you doing? You're not going with Belichick, who wants personnel control and is a dinosaur. What's the grand plan here?
What amazes me, Perk, is that you received a lot of criticism for your take on McDaniel on that. If he has a slow start, this is what you said at the end of last.
Yes.
If he has a slow start, then maybe you start to just begin the process of a little bit on the hot. He gets a little warm, right? Do I have that correct as far as what you were saying? He's not getting fired yet. He's not on the hot seat yet, but just the seat starts to get a little warm. Do I have that? How you were phrasing it? So now the fan base, which was totally against you, have stronger opinions about getting rid of McDaniel now after seeing a few losses. and after actually he was just extended like a month ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, no, you can't do that now. I mean, it depends on how much money Stephen Ross is willing to lose on that front, but because you could just get a new coach if you wanted to,
Yeah.
but you're committed to this system of Mike Daniel, who turned Tua around for the previous seasons, and then we have a small sample size of that. It didn't look too great early on, but I mean, Jacksonville game, they still won it at the end. He still hit Tyreek Hill for the 80-yard touchdown. So there's reason to believe that could still come back. Then it's just been, Buffalo, that was an atrocity, but then he goes down in that game, and then now you're going to your backup quarterback, and then you get into the whole we'll go on and on about how the franchise mishandled the backup quarterback situation and not being better prepared for this exact scenario, investing into a better backup quarterback. But it's just you're not making a move to move off of McDaniel. So get that out of your mind. Not right now. You have this core that you committed to by extending everyone, which everyone was all in favor of in the offseason. So the franchise is rolling with this group, with this unit. And for better or worse, they have to, at least I'd have to look into it more, but at least the next couple of years, and you'd have to let it run its course.
Right.
And just totally break it down after that if this continues. But I will say, it does seem bleak right now, but there is reason to believe that there is a path to it coming back to the way it was once looking later this season. It's totally possible. It's always a great drastic overreaction to whatever's most recent. So, when the Dolphins were winning, then how could you ever think of placing Mike Nazi? And then now a lot of the fan base wants him gone just because they've lost 3 games with 3 different quarterbacks starting in 4 outings.
Yeah, that passion keeps us relevant, baby. I like it. I love that passion. Grandizer 12, I see you out there, Serge St. Pro. We'll get to you guys after we do the Furones bonus. Richard Keys, we're doing this Furones bonus right now, but I see you, and we will get back to you. But right now,
there's supposed to be
time for one of the top 4 segments of this 4-segment show, the Furones bonus.
Oh, the Furones bonus.
I like it, baby. It's getting better. It's getting better. I like it. All right. So today's Furones bonus, we've been talking about the backup quarterback situation here. What is the biggest key to success for a Dolphins backup quarterback? And look, we could go a lot of different directions here, right? You could say getting the ball to Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, having a strong run game, having a game plan tailor-made to your skill. So maybe you use a running quarterback in running situations. That'd be revolutionary. Maybe you have a good defense to help you out and pick up some of the slack. Maybe it's a tight end. Furones, what do you to me, because I always say that this offense is based on Tyreek. So you've got to figure out ways to get Tyreek the ball, hopefully downfield. But you've also got to rely on a defense. A backup quarterback is a backup for a reason. You've got to help him out, make his life easier. So give him a tight end, a run game, a good defense. Give him something, a tailor-made game plan, right? What do you think, Furones, is the biggest key to success for a Dolphins backup quarterback, or the biggest 2 or 3 keys to success?
Yeah, all of those that you mentioned are solid options, but I'm going to go back to something we said earlier. Is simplify the offense.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's not something that's in the quarterback's control to run himself. It's just, I say it's on Mike McDaniel. Don't expect every other quarterback to run this offense as proficiently as Tua, to operate it, to communicate the play calls and orchestrate all the motions and the snap at the right time. This is why we saw all those illegal shift penalties. It has, it's on the players themselves who are shifting and moving at the same time. But when you're asking so much of different players pre-snap, that's just pre-snap before the plays even run, with a new quarterback in there, things like that are going to happen. Every time Skylar Thompson comes in for a start, communication issues, getting the plays in, and then him communicating the plays to the rest of the offense, and then you're running out of play clock time, and your sub packages are delayed, and then once you get to the line of scrimmage, you have all these motions that you still need to get to when the play clock's already at 9. What are you going to do? The guys can't run the motion that fast before you even snap the football. So just simplify things. When it's Snoop Huntley, let him play some backyard ball. He's playing in his hometown. He's playing just a few miles away from his high school. I covered a game that was when he was in high school, Hallandale at Miramar. From the football field at Miramar High School, you can see Hard Rock Stadium across the turnpike.
Wow. Nice.
It's right just north of the turnpike, and then Miramar High is, and then you look across, you can see Hard Rock Stadium sticking up over the turnpike. So, I've literally seen him play just right across the street. You could call Florida's turnpike. But just let him get that hometown feel of, especially having the speed on the outside. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane. Let him just go to work. So that's what I would have appreciated in this game with Snoop Huntley, and even when Skylar Thompson is in there in a hostile environment in Seattle, simplify things so you don't have to run this same offense. Maybe have some of the facets of it, but even Darrell Bevel mentioned this when he spoke this week, is communicating with the quarterback. What are you most comfortable with? So I think, are they actually listening to the quarterback and finding what he likes as much as the coaches like and want to run? So maybe some give or take in that relationship. But all these things are important. You have a Tyreek Hill on this roster for a reason, so you need to get the ball to him. And Snoop Huntley, he had a big opportunity down the field. Tyreek Hill got open over the top, and he just underthrew him and missed wide to the sideline. So that was huge in missing that. If he hits that one, and then I think that takes him to another notch in confidence level the rest of the way. Getting help from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, too. Waddle had a big drop, and we mentioned the Tyreek Hill one ad nauseum here. Going to the run game. Now, they've been without Raheem Mostert, but Devon Achane and Jalen Wright can get this run game going.
Yep.
Part of that, though, is the interior offensive line, not investing there. And then when you also have Teron Armstead out, then, you're playing a rookie at left tackle. Your interior offensive line, your two guards were previously backups last year who didn't win the competition over Isaiah Wynn. Then it's the lack of investment on the offensive line again. And there's a number of factors. But the number one thing I would say is just simplify things for that backup quarterback.
Grandizer 12, the Grandizer 12 is a big fan of yours, asking for a double Furones bonus here.
What's his idea for the second one? Let's do it live. We'll do it live.
Hey, so when we're talking about, to finish out this segment, this Furones bonus, when we're talking about making life simpler for the backup quarterback, there's a bunch of stuff here, and I'm trying to get to, Serge St. Pro, I think that's how you pronounce the last name, says, do you think not having a former head coach with valuable experience is hurting McDaniel? And there are a couple of others that kind of that kind of spin off of that idea. Let's see. One, Grandizer 12 says McDaniel needs to reach out to Coach Jimmy Johnson. He needs veteran advice. Richard Keys says McDaniel is incompetent. He can't stay. He won't change. Weaver should take over. Somebody else talked about they're troubled by the idea that McDaniel is easy on the players. So it's how much of this here at Rob, the rumors that the Dolphins do not practice hard enough is for me a big concern. But Rashawn Brokenbow says you don't get rid of the coach. The 49ers didn't get rid of Shanahan. Also says Tank can get a good pick. But a new coach isn't going to solve this, and we're not going to get a new coach mid-season. How much of this is on Mike McDaniel? When you say a simpler offense, 90% of this backup quarterback problem on McDaniel, 50%? What do you think?
Yes, something like a 75%, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd say. Maybe less because it's also on the roster construction. If the front office would have prioritize the backup quarterback position,
Right.
more investing in it now. But then again, they also invested more when they had Teddy Bridgewater, and then that didn't turn out so well.
Right.
He would always have to exit a game as well. Terrible luck at quarterback with injuries, but then we're right back to that same excuse making of, it's always the injuries. It's always the injuries with this team that you can fall back on. But just sorry. What was the question?
But is it mostly a McDaniel issue with the backup quarterback?
Yeah, I feel like he's not adequately preparing the backup quarterback. The communication should be simplified. So, I would put a lot of this on him.
I would too. I would too. All right, Furones, we are at our final segment, and it is prediction time, baby. Dolphins at Patriots. Who you got? Now, look, we could have two South Florida quarterbacks starting, right? And Snoop Huntley and Jacoby Brissett. So, for those of you who track stuff like that and care about it, that's something, I guess, right? That's something. I'm trying to hype this game up a little bit, and there's not a whole lot to hype here. Look, I do want to see. Let's talk about Patrick Paul for a second, and some of the possibilities. If Teron Armstead doesn't play, there's a rookie playing there. If Kendall Fuller doesn't play, Storm Duck, another rookie playing there. Those were positive performances, right? Those were things to build on. I don't know if they're going to get you to the playoffs or allow you to win a playoff game, but they are positives from that game. And look, the defense overall is a positive. I know you allowed 31 points, but you did give up a short field, and you did surrender a lot of 50-yard field goals. I don't know how many snaps Tennessee had in the red zone. I remember you were asking about that at one point. But I think there were.
Neither team had been in the red zone, and then the Titans got into the red zone for the first time, scored that first touchdown. The Tyjae Spears was
right.
That one. So,
yep. There were positives. Yeah, there were positives though, right? For the Dolphins, I mean, a few, but there were some positives, right?
Defensively, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this team right now is actually number one in getting off the field on third down, this defense. So, they can't convert a third down on offense to save their lives. But, but yeah, defensively, pass defense, Mason Rudolph just managed the game. They didn't really force a turnover aside from that early Emmanuel Ogbah interception that Will Levis threw. So, while Will Levis was still in the game before he went out with a shoulder injury, but hey, I have no problems with this defense. Sure, the final score shows 31 points, but they were keeping the Titans out of the red zone until deep into this game. The run defense still has a lot of things that it needs to shore up, so that is one thing for sure. But all other things equal, if you have your offense running even just half as proficiently as they're capable of, then that run defense could be masked. Because you've been solid against the pass, and you did force some turnovers against Seattle. You're getting off the field on third down. So, the 31 points against the Titans, it was due in large part also at the end of the game. You have a safety that adds on to the score.
Right.
And then you have the penalty on the drop kick onside safety punt, which was like a crazy alignment of different rare things that you see, and I'm still very confused as to what happened there. But then the Titans start at the 10, right, based on that penalty, and from then as they're just trying to run out the clock, they add on another touchdown. But I'm very much high on this defense. Yeah,
and look, but and building on that very quickly, I think Jalen Ramsey has had a good year. I know he gave up the long one against was it Jacksonville? He had the DPI. Yeah, he's had two big ones, but the both of the ones that DK Metcalf had last week, neither of them were on Jalen. One was a coverage bust, the touchdown by Javon Holland. The other one was on Jordan Fuller, that 21-yard one. So Ramsey is also something positive to build on. But look. This game against New England, I am foolishly picking the Dolphins 17-14. I'm just going to go down with the ship at this point. What the hell? But you've got to figure out a way to get the ball to Tyreek and to Jalen Waddle and get the ball to them downfield. I thought Snoop had a couple of opportunities with Tyreek that at least one he overthrew him down the middle of the field on kind of that post pattern. Another one to the sideline, he threw it out of bounds. But you just got to let it fly with Tyreek. Maybe at you get a pass interference even. What about some back shoulder throws to Tyreek? To kind of, when the defense is going full speed, throw it to his back shoulder. You've got to get this man the ball downfield somehow. I thought they were going to do this yesterday. They didn't. I'm going to think that they're going to do it this week. You've got to get these guys the ball downfield. I'm taking Dolphins 17-14. I guess Tyreek has a good game, but I'm going Dolphins 17-14, Furones.
Well, there's not that many points in there for Tyreek to have that good of a game.
Yeah, no.
But still, yeah, a win. All right, so I'm picking the Dolphins, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's because I'm an idiot and I'm stubborn.
Yes. We like that on this show.
No. Kobe Brissett and the Pats, even with whatever backup quarterback plan is for the Dolphins, I feel Miami should win.
Yep.
Call me stubborn, but I just struggle to believe that they'll – it's very possible that this just snowballs into another loss, but especially on the road against a divisional opponent. But I just feel like the Dolphins, they have too much talent. This will be a really, introspective week, every leaders coming together. Mike McDaniel's got to pull something out in his coaching repertoire.
Yes, yes.
And there is some come to Jesus moment, but even just for the Dolphins to win 13-12, that's the score I'm saying. A very ugly game. It's not much gets corrected, but just they hold the Patriots down so well. Maybe Jason Sanders has a game-winning field goal as time expires, and the Dolphins still don't ever possess a lead at any point in this either, because through 4 weeks the Dolphins have not actually had a lead through any second of gameplay.
Yeah.
So maybe that continues, and maybe it's just a last-second thing, and they just squeak by again to get to 2-3. But I still do have them winning. And to get back to the point on Mike McDaniel and his how easygoing he is on players. It's also just not his style. It would come across like a desperation move, you're changing up on everyone. If you revert to something, he's got his coaching staff there to really getting the players behind, if you will, to really get after them. So it's kind of like he's the boss of those assistant coaches, and the assistant coaches are the ones that are supposed to get into the individual players. That's kind of the way this coaching staff is structured, I feel. So it might be more of that delegation of these assistant coaches to really get after the players. Maybe Mike in pieces does a little bit more of it, but not so much where it's just a drastic change in your style that players would almost deem disingenuous or just not true to self. So, but I expect Mike McDaniel's got to do something this week to galvanize his team.
Furones, the passion is still here, and I don't know that
go anywhere. I know it.
the fans. Here, I'm wondering, do you think that it's justified, or are fans just emotional? Billy Batson says Mike Mayock and Gruden during the bye. Let's get ahead of next year. December came early. Richard Keys, incompetent owner, GM, and head coach. Let's see. Jorge Garcia, tear it down to the studs. Michael Ungst, someone has to be fired. I mean, Carlos Sainz, fire Greer and Mike McDaniel. What a joke. just all of the get rid of somebody, fire somebody. Would you do that if you're Steve Ross, or would you have the patience to say, look, I know the fans are excited, but I've got to see the big picture here. To a certain extent, you've seen the big picture here. And if there's not going to be any change, then you either have to insist on change or get rid of somebody. But what is the fans' passion in wanting to get rid of somebody legit, or is everybody just running hot right now?
Yeah, it's right now. I would not go in that direction. It's short in the season. It's 1-3.
Right.
If this continues, you got to play this out, and you've already positioned yourself where you are playing it out. So I understand the fans' frustration, but this organization is playing this out. They're committed to this core. So you practice patience in the immediate future, and then if we see no improvements through the rest of this season, and maybe it's not even change that's coming through, at least not major wholesale changes, but the Dolphins and Stephen Ross and Chris Greer, and they're committed to this core for the immediate future. So you only make wholesale changes, huge moves like that down the road. It's not coming in the immediate future. You play this out in this season.
Furones, before we get out of here, correct me if I'm wrong. The fans at 1-3 before, didn't they fire Joe Philbin at 1-3? And then under Adam Gase, wasn't that the Jay Ajayi year where he goes off for 200 and 200 and then 100 and then 200 and then you're in the playoffs? I got to check that. I think for maybe Philbin might have been 1-4. I remember we were over in London when he got the axe. But it might have been
here. Yeah, and then Man Campbell.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Started the Man Campbell era, baby. All right, well, Furones, that's going to wrap us up. I don't know what we solved in this edition. I think everybody is still hot. Emotions are still all over the place. But man, I hope they get the win up in New England, because things are going to get really, really miserable. By the way, one last thing. I always say we're signing off and we don't. Tyreek Hill did not speak last night after the game. He seemed to be running hot on the sideline. Is this anything to worry about, or do you think Tyreek comes in tomorrow and everything is everything? That's when I'm leaning toward that Tyreek runs hot. This isn't a long-term thing where he's going to, grandstand and start ripping people publicly. I think he was just running hot, and perhaps getting out of that locker room might have been a smart thing because of his reaction to questions. What do you think about Tyreek? Should we be concerned?
Yeah, he often does run hot like this. It's not the first time he's done this. Actually, there have been times where we're expecting to get Tyreek Hill after practice, and then he is out of there just as soon as his day is done very quickly. So it's not the first time we see it. It was a little weak of him to not talk after a game like that, especially if you were that frustrated on the sideline and the cameras caught you, and you can't speak to the media and answer questions about it, and answer questions as to what went wrong in that game and why you didn't go after that ball that you dropped as one of the elite receivers in the NFL. Then he should have faced the questioning, and the fans deserved to hear from him on that offensive performance as well. So it was weak of him to not stick around, but I know that's sometimes what he just does. He just bolts out of there first opportunity he gets. But that was disappointing to see that.
Yeah, and I don't like that you leave Jalen Waddle and other people to answer for your miscues. You're a team captain. You need to be there. I talked to Zach Sealer. Calais Campbell was out there. Javon Holland answered questions. Alec Ingold. Other guys answered questions. Jonnu Smith, Tyreek should have been there. But, hey, that's that. I'm picking the Dolphins win. We're both picking Dolphins wins. So next Tuesday, folks, we're coming back to talk Dolphins. They will be 2-3. Put it down in ink. 2-3 Dolphins next week, and if they aren't, well, join us anyway. I'm Chris Perkins. That's David Furones. We will see you next week. SunSentinel.com.